Moving on, Kabul's outreaching efforts to bring Taliban to the negotiating table received a major setback as the resurging Taliban blew up an army outpost in Kandahar, killing 5 soldiers and wounding several others. Newsweek South Asia has a report. In a dramatic turn of events, Taliban insurgents who have been rapidly gaining ground in war-torn Afghanistan and now control large swathes of country's territory rejected the peace talks with Ghani government, citing the United States as the principal force in the country. The Taliban decision comes closely at the heels of US President's announcement of withdrawing almost half its troops stationed in Afghanistan, assisting Afghan forces at different levels. This has brought a double jolt to the people and the government of Afghanistan. In view of the growing tension between Taliban and Afghanistan forces, the Afghan presidential election have been postponed to 20th July, which was initially scheduled to be held on 20th April.
The Afghanistan government wanted Taliban to hold talks with them because they thought they were representatives of the Afghani people. But Taliban is very clear in their mind that they do not recognize the present government of Afghanistan as a representative of Afghani people. They do not consider present Afghanistan government as their equal, and they do not want to share power with the present government. They are only utilizing them to hold talks with rest of the world so that their acceptance is there in the whole world. They return to the power, and once they return to the power, they are not going to share it with anybody, even with the present Afghan government.
Lately, it has been observed that Taliban has shown a lot of inconsistency in its position. In spite of being involved in peace talks with the US, Taliban has been continuously launching attacks in Afghanistan. These attacks are in complete contradiction to Taliban's attempts of its image makeover. Recently, Taliban had declared that if it comes to power in Afghanistan, then its return won't be as harsh as it was in 1996. Afghanis would not have to live in threat because of Taliban. Taliban at one side is trying to refine its image by making such statements, whereas on the other side, it keeps on launching attacks in different locations of Afghanistan that has killed several security forces and civilians. Afghanistan's peacemaking process with Taliban seems to have no major effect on them as they continue to bring major terror setbacks to Afghanistan. In a bid to bring consistency in the country, Kabul has been trying to mend relations with Taliban through various peace overtures.
While Taliban wants to talk to America and also to the rest of the world consisting of Russia as well as China so that they emerge as the only ruler in Afghanistan, on the other side they're playing a double game by neutralizing the Afghan security forces. The Afghan security forces simply will not be able to withstand the assault of Taliban whenever they start a full-blown warfare. So while the facade of holding talks with USA, USSR as well as China is kept on, but they will do all that is possible under their power to ensure that the Afghan armed forces are neutralized so that Taliban becomes the only ruler of Afghanistan whenever USA leaves Afghanistan.
The previous year has been one of the deadliest years for Afghanistan as it saw record bloodshed in 2018. Civilian deaths had hit a record high in the first half of the previous year, while the Taliban has been continuously slaughtering Afghan forces in greater numbers than ever before. The decision of withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan is an indication towards even deadlier 2019. The presidential elections are likely to fuel violence and also an ever-increasing Taliban influence in the region under the support of Pakistan's deep state, which is going to create havoc in the country. The recent attacks on government buildings and security outposts of Afghanistan are a proof of Taliban's total destructive and unapologetic attitude towards the civilians of Afghanistan.
Taliban has been following what is called as the radicalized form of Islam. They are a Sunni group who wants Sharia to come back. If the past history is a record, they have used all kinds of radicalized form of the religion.
Looking at Taliban's inconsistency, one can expect Taliban to track the peace negotiations with earnest honesty and then come back in the summers of 2019 with renewed rage and violence. The Taliban have not evolved into a political movement and have remained a jihadi force. It is highly unlikely that the Taliban will accept the present Afghan constitution. The extremist group would in fact insist on governance under Islamic law if at all it comes to power in 2019.